Everyone who's there, and we can see you. I'm going to ask people who are online, normally when you're online, you kind of have your camera off and you just kind of do your own thing. For a second, turn your cameras on so that everyone who's here can see you. And we'll give you a little wave. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for those of you who are waving. We're glad to see you. And this really allows so many people to be here. It's really nice. Okay. So I don't know if people knew, but this morning we did the unveiling for Rabbi Teitelbaum, for David. And, on one hand, it feels so long ago. And on the other hand, it still feels so fresh and hard to believe. And one of the powerful things of Jewish ritual of unveiling is you get to share qualities, traits, characteristics. And one of the things that, I would imagine everyone at Beth Jacob thinks of immediately when they think of Rabbi Teitelbaum is justice. Let justice flow like a mighty river. That's what we have on his sign. And on Rabbi Teitelbaum's gravestone, there was a reference to justice work, Soviet Jewry, and marching with Dr. King. But he stood for so many things. He stood for integrity. He stood for love. And this lecture is the Rabbi David and Robin Teitelbaum lecture. So I hope that Robin is here watching and listening. We see her. Robin, I want you to know the impact you've had on this community as well. Such a deep, deep way. You brought love and hospitality, Hamish spirit. And so we honor David and Robin with this lecture. And one last value, and then I'll ask Adam and Josh to share some words of introduction, and then we'll watch this extraordinary documentary. Rabbi Teitelbaum taught us to remember, zachor. And for him, memory was a sacred, holy act. We need to remember, because when we remember, we act in different ways. And today this film is his family remembering. And as you watch them remember, you watch the impact of memory. And what a wonderful way to have the Teitelbaum lecture this year, to watch the Teitelbaum visit back to a place that they needed to remember. So with that, let me call on Adam and Josh. We're so glad you're here.
Hi, everybody. It's an honor to be here with my family and to honor my father's name at this Teitelbaum family lecture. Just a few notes on the film before we begin. My father's Uncle Dave returned to his hometown, Wielopole in Poland, every summer for years to visit his family and give money to the town administrators and police to help ensure the welfare of the town's Jewish residents. In 1938, he took a home movie camera with him and shot a film of his visit. Part of that film is included throughout this film you're about to see. And also, early in this film, you will hear someone refer to Dave. They're referring to Uncle Dave, the one who shot the film in 1938, not to be confused with my father, Dave or David. So what we'll do is I'm going to have my brother come up and say a few words. He was the primary organizer of the trip. And I'll have Stephen come up if you'd like to say something. And after the film.
Especially when I'm filming, fine.
Josh Teitelbaum, and I guess I organized this thing. I'll be very, very brief. A lot of people make, I suppose a lot of Jews, but not just Jews, make the genealogical journey, usually in retirement. but I'm still a couple years before that. But I somehow got sucked into, with the internet and everything, looking for my family roots, which we didn't know too much about. And it just happened that because of the internet, I knew the shtetl, that the family was from Wielopole. And one day, I'm just going through the internet, and boom, I find a grave, and it's a monument in a mass grave to the Jews of Wielopole, and there are my great-grandparents' names among the people murdered in the village of Wielopole. The elderly in this village were all murdered and in a mass grave, and they were buried there in a mass grave. And one of the families took care of that and kept it and put a plaque there. And that's how the first I had ever really seen or heard of my great grandparents. And that kind of started a journey, I'll make this really short, of discovery of the history of our family in Wielopole. And my great grandfather and great grandmother, Hashem Yikom Damam, Oizer and Leah Teitelbaum. And this was not only discovery of our roots, but discovery of our extended family, which growing up in California, for a lot of reasons, we didn't know. And we got to know Stephen, and we got to know Jerry, and Alava Shalom Marv, who passed just a couple of weeks ago, was my father's first cousin, who was living in LA all this time. And we went on this trip together. So it was both a roots trip, but also getting to know our family. And the last thing I'll say before we get to the film is, as a historian myself, the narrative, or what should be the narrative of the Holocaust, of the relationship between Jews and Poles, is something that, as we say, is quite contested. And we see both of these things here. There was a family in the town that hid Jews. There was also part of families in the town that profited from the murder of the Jews there. So it's kind of a microcosm of the legacy of the relationship between Poles and Jews. So that's all I have to say. Maybe Stephen wants to just add.
I'm Stephen Teitelbaum, Josh's second cousin, and my father and his father were, of course, first cousins. The only thing I want to say is it's incredible how close I felt now to Josh and Adam since we connected over this. And I want to tell everybody that's watching and listening, the time's never too late to try to find out about your family in the old country, and you won't believe how good it feels to be acquainted for the first time with people who are your real mishpacha. So I encourage everybody, it's good to learn about, but also the personal relationships are unbelievable. I hope you enjoy the film.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. This is grandfather, and this is me, my sister, and my mother. This is Shia,
And that's the son
and this is the grandfather.
Oizer.
Oizer.
And Shia is the son of Razel,
Yeah.
your mom's sister.
My grandfather, my grandmother, Uncle Dave, Shia, neighbor.
There you are.
Here I am. Pretty dress. And we had dresses made up. We didn't buy it from like a department store. We didn't have one.
But it was such a bright colored.
Yeah, well, I have good taste. That's me too, and my uncle. Uncle Dave had somehow a camera where they were able to take pictures. Dave Teitelbaum, he was my uncle, and he had parents living in Wielopole. And he wanted to see his parents, so he came every year to visit them. That year, 38, he must have come with a camera, and he took pictures of everybody. Wherever he went, he took pictures. And we were very impressed. We all wanted to be in the pictures. And that's how we have something to remember from the family and the town.
It would be nice to start from this particular place, yeah? Just to show respect to those who once lived here, buried here, and then we try to see something more in the town and to talk to people. Yeah, I think it will work. You know, places like this we have in every village.
Where's the monument?
This is
Thank you.
This is Wielopole, right? Yeah, this is Wielopole. Wielopole. His family. Wielopole, I understand, is the one responsible for this as well. Here is buried the martyr Chaim Yehuda, the son of Alter HaKohen. Hashem Yikom Damo, may his blood be avenged. Yeah. He was born in Shnat Tarna, 1890, and murdered by the German Nazis. May their name be wiped out. The 15th of Tammuz, 1942, in the city of Wielopole in Poland, with 42 other martyrs, man and woman, and may their whose names are inscribed below. Their blood will remain forever. Will not remain silent forever, and their memory will never be forgotten. May God avenge their blood. This is. I was under the impression it was a big thing. It's just a little plate.
What?
Here, look.
yeah, I told them.
Yeah, look at that.
Carl's responsible for putting
Carl
this
put
up.
this up. Carl had a heart attack in 1994,
It was built in 1997.
and then he got really into this after that, and then he put it up, and he even came in with diggers, and they.
This was arranged by the local government. I spoke with mayor when I was here for the first time.
Okay.
And actually, Yuda came here and they were working, looking for evidences. Yeah, they have the special equipment.
So where's the
machines.
mass grave then?
Here.
Right here. Okay.
So it wasn't easy to find, but eventually they found. Then you didn't
right
see
here.
the village, first of all. And there were plenty of tombstones. These are original tombstones over there. And they brought two, this one and the other.
It's Yashar, Paul, Ben Hamanoach, son of the deceased Moshe Yisrael, maybe. Now here's the year. And there's something after it too. Wow. What? This?
A date.
Well, you have it translated? How old is it? Do you remember?
In the painting, they were facing this way.
Ishtam
Over there. And he started
V'yashar, simple and honest man. Yes, where they were killed is mamash here. But they were killed in the cemetery. They brought them to the cemetery to shoot them. And they sent the Jews, the younger Jews, to dig the graves. And they made the Jews pay for their own bullets to be shot.
Oh, God. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, naturally, it's quite emotional. My grandfather was murdered here with such a beautiful view. What a way to leave the world, total unnecessarily, and performed by the most civilized people in the world. It's almost incredulous. You know, you read about it, and you know that animals never do this to other animals. They murder to eat, but they don't go around just looking to kill other animals just to get rid of their own species. And this is what it is, human beings capable of planning and executing mass murders on their own kind. But they didn't consider Jews as being their own kind.
the second or the third
No,
one.
no, the first one is another one, but the second.
Oh, here.
The first wasn't here. It was built not long time ago.
I'm particularly moved because in 1928, my family was supposed to go to Poland. My father got sick and he died. We never made the trip. Now I've made the trip after 84 years.
It's, hard to be present in it. I mean, I'm here. There's a lot of action, a lot of people, but it's it feels very closing of a certain loop to be in this space, to know that my great-grandparents, even my grandfather lived in this town.
I have two stones here. From here, I will put on my grandfather's grave. He was the one who would come back every summer that he could to see his parents. Oizer and Leah were his parents, and he would support the families. The stories are, he would come with money in his pockets and pay off who he could, so they would get treatment, good treatment. So I put one on his grave, and I would put one on his son's grave, my father's grave. My grandfather never came back after 38. I guess that was the last time when he brought Helen over. And he never got over this, never. I've said he would cry hysterically about, he just burst into tears telling the story, and when he thought about his beloved parents, and because he wanted to save them, he wanted to do what he could, and he was totally powerless, obviously. So for him, it's different talking to other people. We're an interesting bunch because some people just learned about their relationship to this town and what happened here. And some people, like me and others, grew up with these stories.
Until a year ago, I never knew what happened at all. This was the first time. And when I first heard about it, I couldn't wait to come and see. It's exactly what I thought, because we have the painting and we've had so many photographs taken of it. But it was probably a day like this in June. It's almost exactly the anniversary. And I keep thinking about the shots, ringing out over the whole valley. And boom, 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 and just thinking about what all these people were watching and what they were thinking. Whether they were complicit or whether they weren't. Whether they could have protected them or not. Whether they were happy to suddenly be able to grab their land and grab their stores, see the Jews go, or whether they felt that their friends were going away. And of course, I keep thinking about why they didn't leave, why they didn't know to leave. Like, we had an uncle who could have brought them back to America. We keep hearing this ridiculous story that our great-grandmother didn't want to get on a boat. And if she did, then they would have left. So those are the things I'm thinking about.
recently. So
My dad never wanted to talk about it, but he also knew nothing.
yeah,
He didn't know that this happened. But that side of the family, he was really raised by his mother's family,
yeah.
and he saw his dad only a couple of times, and never knew any first cousins.
Okay, we are first cousins because my father and Marvin's father were brothers.
It all came together, in a haphazard way when Shifra decided to call up my house because she was Shifra Teitelbaum and I was Marvin Teitelbaum. And then my wife, who she's a Teitelbaum by marriage, she got involved and she almost pushed me to meet her. Had I not gone on this trip, I'd never get to meet these people and find out what kind of people they were. And I found out a lot of things about my father that I would never have known about. And I never met the person who's buried here at all. I never knew about him. I never knew where he was killed or whether he was killed. And people used to say, are you related to the Rabbi Teitelbaum in Redwood City? And I'd say, of course not. I never knew I had a rabbi there. One Saturday night, Stephen came over and said, you ought to speak to the rabbi. I said, what am I going to call him for? I mean, I've never met him. I don't know anything about him. So he said, I'm going to do it. So he gets on the phone, and like he can do things like that, and he put it on speaker, and who answered the phone? But you did. And we had a long conversation. I realized, gee, in a second, this was a human being, a real live person who was my first cousin.
It's very dramatic to be here and think about what took place. Relatives who I had never thought about. So it is introducing me to my ancestors and how they suffered. And also to see my father, who at the same time is witnessing where his own grandfather died and connecting with family members who he never knew he had. And to do both of those things at the same time is obviously particularly emotional for him. And so for me it's interesting largely because he's here and seeing the closing of the loop in a sense for him, connectivity both to his deceased grandfather and at the same time the connectivity to relatives who are still alive today. And in some ways there's a circularity of life.
One residual benefit of this adventure is I'm getting to meet all these wonderful people in the family that I went all my life. Now that I'm 83 years of age, I'm getting acquainted with my first cousins.
Yes, I feel
like you.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way. Samakaya. Not only Makaya, Makaya music.
We have here what your grandfather wrote. Here.
Do you have it in Polish?
Yeah. You know this?
I know that story a little.
Yeah, but you know that your grandfather wrote this?
Yeah.
Yes, this.
Yes.
Okay. This is the story of the Jews in Wielopole. Very interesting. I recognize the style. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a copy of this one
You see a few old wooden houses, they just do not exist any longer. But this yellow house and next to it is creamy, they are the round the square. Was interested in the town.
It says Honenu, Adonai, Honenu, Kirav.
Does anybody know who this would be?
There.
That's the mayor?
The Sotis, we say, so mayor of the city, and he was forced by Nazis to be there.
He's sort of grieving, but the Nazi just looks angry and mean. And is that a British? That's a local.
Well,
Is that a Polish police officer, Polish soldier there?
this is
In the blue.
the blue. There is the Polish policeman.
And would he be local? Would he
Local.
be local, a Wielopole resident?
Yes, he's mentioned by the name too.
Jeff Riddell told me that Czesław,
Just what?
okay, who told Roman Lipa the story,
Yes.
said that he was told that the Nazis were pointing a bayonet at a baby, and that he took the bayonet away and hit the Nazi in the head and killed him. Hard to believe, but that they then shot Judah, and he was the first one killed.
Isn't it described by Roman?
No.
So
No, Roman describes, I have this here, describes Langer fighting, and Langer took 4 bullets to kill him.
Firstly, he took picture, and then he followed the picture. So this is the scenery. This is winter, yeah, but this is summer. And here you see new buildings built in 60s or 70s here. He was just a local person born here, and he wanted to leave something about the community, about Jewish community, about Christian community. He was photographer. Yeah? First of all, he was the photographer. He took many pictures, and then he decided to paint. He decided to write as well. His story came from this person, from Mayor. They were neighbors. So the eyewitness told Roman the story.
It's very.
This here is from Psalm Tehillim, from Psalm 123, this pasuk, and the English translation is be gracious unto us, O Lord, be gracious unto us, for we are full sated with content. And by the way, in the Hasidic Sephardic rite on Shabbat morning, we say this every morning. This from the
Sephardic?
No, the Nusach Sfarad, which Hasidim use. Nusach Sfarad, yeah. So this is the.
Save us from contempt? What?
Yes. We are fully sated with contempt. We've had enough have contempt poured on us.
It's too important for one of us to have in our house, and not the others. Where everybody can see it.
Czy wyraziłbyś zgodę na to, żeby to wisiało w muzeum, żeby to było eksponowane w muzeum? Tak. Tak? Najbardziej chyba.
I will do that. Yes. Yes. Okay.
To się zgadza.
Good.
Just get it back.
And then now I got to get it back to the museum.
I can't understand where those houses were. Who lived there? I don't remember. You see, this was in the town, in the center.
It was a big square.
Yeah, and all around there were stores.
And your father had one of the stores
Right.
in the center.
Where I was standing
Right.
with my sister and my mother, that was our store.
Right.
That's my father.
One on the right.
Yeah, right. And this is a cousin. And these are neighbors. And these are stores all around. You see? All this is on one side. Our store was on that side.
So your father basically had a department store, he had a bus
Everything.
line, so he was very
Yeah.
entrepreneurial.
And a very educated, religious guy. The people in Wielopole, mostly that I knew, were Jewish, and they had every family had a trade. They were a shoemaker, tailor or something, or they had a store. And my father was he thought we come from a very prestigious family, that I cannot befriend everybody. So he only wanted me to be friends with people that are his kind. But I was friendly with I had a lot of friends, and we all planned to go to Israel, really.
Yeah. And it'll be very interesting to see what the center of town looks like 70 years later.
It was a different feel.
There's Oyster. Josh, can you identify the other
Leia.
people?
Yeah.
This is this row. Look at the doors right there. It sure looks a lot like it. I see a number of buildings with what, I mean, that's definitely a pre-war door that seems very similar, but I can't match up. I can't yet match up an address.
Langer, who was born here, and as a child he went around collecting money for Erev Shabbos for the poor families, and so he remembers exactly every building, who lived in every building, and the family, and he attached here a list of all the families. I can identify three members of my family here. Oyster Teitelbaum at house number 60, Moshe Rappaport in number 64, and I mean, it's amazing. There's over 144 families that he remembered exactly here. Mishpachat Sartoria, the Sartoria family, number 38. That's one. See, in the film, Rappaport is at number 64. They're all right, you know, they're all very close to each other. They're all in the 60s, but we think we're probably standing where it was.
So Helen said we should look for where they buried the jewelry. But we don't know where.
Well, in their backyard.
Yes, no way.
It's right here. It's under the Fiat.
We needed a metal detector.
We need a metal
Bring it,
detector.
to bring
We
with
need
us.
a metal detector, yeah.
To jest jakaś tam część, która została tutaj. Ale do niczego nam nie było przydatne. Ja, że tak powiem, lubię starocie. Zbieram sobie na motocyklach.
Parashat Bo.
Bardzo chętnie mogę to przekazać.
This is the beginning of the play.
His father got it, and he doesn't know how he got it.
No, they don't know the value of that. Ehrlich, her father had a shop here. So he knew everybody who had shops, all Jews and Poles. So, jaki to był sklep?
Ask if she recognizes any of the town or the...
Ja tu mieszkałam.
Or the building.
What does she say?
She lived there.
She lived right there.
Where-
Tu
Okay,
były budki, jedna i niżej druga.
here you go.
I tam...
He will be very happy with that.
Yes? Okay. You're welcome. Welcome.
Now he's stoked. Oh boy.
Listen, defend the Jews if they ever come back to Wielopole. You know. All right.
Wielopole było tu, to było bardzo dużo Żydów i oni ich, jak się wojna dobrze rozpoczęła, to i zaczęli Niemcy się już dobrze obsiedlać, to wzięli się za Żydów i geta wywozili Żydów. Stamtąd prowadzili ich, bo tam, no, tą drogą. Tak. Na Robczycę. Widziałem, jak ich mordowali, jak ich bili, jak ich chodzili, jak zawsze rano, jak szli do pracy, jak tam źle się zachowywali, to a źle, nieźle, ale to już byli osłabieni, już nie mogli, panie, pracować, ale jeszcze ich domęczali. Ja to wszystko widziałem, bo ja byłem zabrany tak samo przez Niemców do niewoli, panie, tak, i codziennie rano odwozili ich do pieca. To piec to był niedaleko. Co, panie, my z Żydami żyli w porządku, to my Żydów po prostu szanowali, no. Ale no to nie da, a jakby doszli do tego, że na przykład mnie, jakbym ja Żydów coś za tego, że bym im pomógł albo bym ich ocalił, żeby uciekali, że tego, bo ich wyłapił, to ja szedłem na karę śmierci. Co to Żydy winni byli? Wszystko Niemcy byli, kurwa, winni.
No i tam był taki duży dół wykopany i tam właśnie szli na rozstrzelanie. Tej góreczce. No i przechodzili tędy na strzelanie. U nas to na strychu to nawet było 2 Żydów. Takie, choć co sobie poprzynosili. Ale potem Niemcy jak padli, no to zastrzelili ich u nas na strychu. O, tu właśnie dom stary stał. I tutaj.
Tutaj ich zastrzelili?
No,
Tak, z tego co ja wiem, to pan Miąso przetrzymał. Tak, przetrzymał całą wojnę Żydów i później ten Żyd był w Ameryce. Oj, nawet go wziął, 2 lata był Cesiek. Dorobił się, kupił sobie pierwszy traktor, tu nikt traktora nie miał, dom sobie wybudował, wszystko, wynagrodził się solidnie za to przetrzymanie. No.
O, tutaj jest taki kamień. No i teraz przywiózł ten kamień z Kierkutu. Może mój ojciec. Nie wiem, czy pisze, czy nie, może nie pisze.
Te maceby z cmentarza to brali ludzie i służyły jako fundamenty pod stodoły, pod szopy. Chodniki w Wielopolu były wykładzione. No, taka legenda krąży, że kto wziął te nagrobki po Żydach z cmentarza, to bardzo miał złe życie i koniec życia przez to.
This bunch of Jews riding in a bus together in Poland, mostly telling Jewish jokes to each other. And it's a really weird experience that this is mostly what we are doing. I don't know how to explain. Well, maybe I do know how to explain it, but for another time.
I want to hear that. I want to hear the psychiatrist's explanation.
It's a denial of the pain of the experience. It's much better to laugh than to cry.
Didn't kiss my hand. Where's he gonna sit? Here.
Ile ma lat ojciec?
97 skończył.
97. 97.
Langer?
Nie.
Niemiec, no. Langer, Steiner, oj. Park? Nehemiah, Silber, Gold. Kleiman, I wrote it right.
Kleiman. Jeszcze raz. No, she was a widow. is up there, and they don't see. Simply they don't see. It's very difficult.
They're like starkers, you know.
His father lived here during the war. He is his father-in-law, and his father lived here during the war, and he had the bar in the center. So actually everybody was coming. So and he learned a lot from father.
Did the Jews go to the bar and to the barber?
I Żydzi przychodzili do niego?
Przychodzili Żydzi,
Yeah.
przychodzili
Yes,
Ruscy,
everybody.
hitlerowcy, naziści, wszystko.
Everybody
wszyscy.
was coming.
Tak,
to-
golił,
yeah,
no
yeah.
wszystko, on miał zakład fryzjerski w całym rynku.
Ja tylko pamiętam, że byłem na zakupach w Wielopolu i była moja siostra i druga siostra jeszcze starsza, tak, że weszli tam obok gdzieś do sklepu, ale wiedzieli o mnie, ja miałem takie 9 lat. No to jeszcze nie można było tak ze mną dowiedzieć wiele. A tam słyszę, że jeden z góry tam z okna do drugiego Żyda coś przemawia o mnie. I coś powiedział, że mnie, zobacz, poznałem, że o mnie mówią. I ja sobie myślę, no to mnie pewnie zabiorą. Spodziewać się można było, że któryś z Żydów wyleci, chapnie mnie i wciągnie od razu.
So he told a story about how Jews were taking children, Catholic children, to drain their blood for matzah, and he gave it in details, and
I'm glad you have that on tape.
and his daughter was trying to tell him that this is all tale and this is not true.
Jeszcze z opowiadania.
Z opowiadania.
To co opowiadam pan.
To jest opowiadanie.
Tak.
Pan cię nagra, będziesz taki chłopczyk maj. No.
No o Żydach to troszkę pamiętam, jak chodzili po domu, kupowali skórki z króli, bardzo wtedy były drogie skórki z króli, tak co babka sobie kupiła chustkę na głowę za skórkę z króli, no. Ale i w Wielopolu to było bardzo dużo Żydów i byli bardzo bogaci, mieli pola, lasy, tam na Jaszczurowy mają Wielopolanie lasy, ale nikt się nie chce przyznać, że po żydowskie. Tu w Jabłony jeden ma 7 morgów lasu po Żydach.
I sprzedawali, oni byli bogaci, bo tak, każdy miał sklep handlową i także, że to oni się dobrze prowadzili, dobrze im było.
Przed wojną adwokaty były wszystko Żydy, sędziowie przeważnie Żydy, bo szkolony był, Polak nie był szkolony tak. Oni jak babka go dochodził do szkoły polskiej, ale i do żydowskiej szkoły chodził.
Bardzo mądre ludzie oni byli. Tak.
Mieli towary drogie, zagraniczne, płótna, sukna, jak to kupowali na ubrania. A potem się dopiero za okupacji bida zrobiła i po froncie. To nie było w czym chodzić no, w sztruksowych portkach, tak.
Było za jedzenie dane, babka i dała jakąś pszenicę, jakieś jedzenie. Przychodziła ta babina i była strasznie jakoś bidno, nie miała czym dzieci chować. Oj tak, co miała w domu to dawała, żeby jej coś za to dała do jedzenia. No i tyle mamy po Żydach. Jeszcze drugo też gdzieś jest, ale już nie będę szukać. No, tak.
Babka tu, jak strzelali, to modliła się wieczne odpoczywanie za każdy raz strzał usłyszano, to człowieka zastrzelili, to go da do 40 doliczy, a potem już nie da rady, bo się przestraszyła tym wszystkim.
Pamiętam strzały i pamiętam, jak moja mama chowała się za szafę, bo się bała. I siostra tak samo, no bo słyszeliśmy strzały, bo to nie tak daleko od tego Kirkutu było. Bo niektórzy z nich uciekli i schowali się, część u mięsa, a część przechował Kolasiński, który był leśniczym w lesie. Gdzieś tam na Leśniczówce czy gdzieś. I oni potem wyjechali chyba do Stanów Zjednoczonych, bo potem kontaktowali się z tymi ludźmi. Także udało im się przeżyć. A tamci, no to wszyscy zginęli. Ich było dosyć dużo. I to była synagoga, która później zniknęła. No, proboszcz z synagogi przyjaźnił się z tym duchownym żydowskim. Także nie było konfliktów między Żydami a Polakami.
8 lat miałam, jak Niemcy właśnie wkroczyli, pamiętam we wrześniu, tak, orkiestra wtedy była niemiecka, pięknie.
She was 8 years old when Nazi troops entered Wielopole with orchestra. They were playing orchestra on the square. Teitelbaum, nazwiska pani nie pamięta w ogóle.
Słyszałam o takim, ale tak bliżej, no nie
She
wiem.
remembers Baum.
Baum.
I found the name Baum without title.
There is a Baum.
There is
yeah.
a Baum.
Okay.
So she remembers Baum.
And maybe the first names like Schendel.
A na
Schendel,
przykład
Reisel.
jakieś takie imiona jak Scheindel, Reisel,
Zangier, o, Zangier Wolf.
Wolf Zanger.
Tak, on miał dużą cukiernię.
He had the shop with sweets, with
Tak,
cakes.
tak. I
Rappaport.
tam Rapaport, no to właśnie mówiłam, że
Trafika.
miał, tak,
Rappaport had trafika.
papierosy,
Trafika was
taką trafikę.
cigarette.
Moshe Rappaport is the Helen's father, right? Helen's father, Myron's grandfather. Moshe was married to Schendel. So she remembers Moshe who had sells tobacco.
Then Rappaport. So she remembers shops. That this is what they were going to buy things because almost all shops were in Jewish hands around the square, so everybody was buying that. So the kids, Jewish kids, they stay rather closer to their
Did they go to
families.
school together or separate?
Yes, together.
I to było
She
przestrzegane.
remembers shamas knocking at the door. Bez się
Pamiętam,
zaczynał.
jak Rebek
to
chodził,
było?
uderzył 3 razy i zamykały się drzwi. Jak w sobotę szły palić, to jeszcze słyszałam niedawno, tak jeszcze mówił, że nawet podpalić, zapałka nie wolno było,
bo to był
podpalić,
szabas
tak. I to było tak, z rana, to już było o godzinie 5 czy o 4. Wszyscy synowie, ci mężowie tych niepełnosprawnych takich, byli wezwani na ten Kierkut, na ten cmentarz i dużą mogiłę wybrali, tak? I później wieści około 40 osób, co by to niepełnosprawni. No. Tak, ojcowie, no, czy żona, czy jakieś, w każdym bądź razie 3 było takich umysłowo chorych.
They brought mother and the child, and she started to shout at this German soldier. Windisch was his name. Windisch was responsible for all those executions because he was on duty there, Windisch. And she said to him, it was repeated by the person who was forced to dig the grave and then to cover the body. And she said to these German soldiers, you Nazis are going to Schlag was trafić means you are going to die, you disappear, you go to hell. You got to hell, and Poland was and will be.
The Jewish one was saying
Yes,
that.
yeah, to that German. A czy wtedy, w tym czasie, jak nazywał się sołtys? Pamięta pani, kto był sołtysem?
Sołtys był bardzo długo, taki długosz.
Długosz, tak?
Jak oni zakopali,
Tak.
chyba był tam 1 czy 2 facetów, żeby to tę
tak,
mogiłę, a tu już całe furmanki na całym rynku i do getta,
Do Robczyc,
tak? I zaraz powynosili z synagogi te pisma, wszystkie te religijne, palili to.
What does she remember about the mood in the town afterward? Was it very somber, or what did it feel like?
No było przegnębione, bo to byli ludzie starsi, no to przecież tak jak u nas, to brała taka Żydówka mleko i później ona sprzedawała, przychodzili do niej. No to moja mama bardzo płakała, opłakiwała ją niesamowicie. No.
Suddenly you missed the part of your town, yeah? Suddenly they took people from here. You could talk to the person 5 minutes ago, few hours ago, and suddenly no one is living there. No, it's empty place.
Pusto i ten z tych Talmudy, jak to mówi Talmudy, ten zapach tego dymu, to chyba można powiedzieć rok. No i wtedy zaraz wszystkie pomniki wykopywać. Zarządzenie zostało. Nie został ani jeden pomnik na ten kierpicie.
Po 44?
Tak, nie w 44, tylko w 42.
All those metzevot from cemetery were taken out of the spot and Nazis paved the square.
Dwie Żydówki to się nazywały albo Griszpan, albo Bajtek. W każdym razie takie nazwisko. Zaszczelili ich właśnie Niemiec na rynku Wielopole. I to tak było, zaraz ich ciągli za włosy. To było okropne, no i Żydówki wychodzili z wodą i tę krew zmywały. Tak. To była pierwsza taka.
They were accused of being communists, and they were murdered first in the square. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they gather people to see the murder, or was it just done on the spur of the moment?
Tylko tyle i nikt nie widział tego.
Did she hear any stories about Jews leaving valuables, jewelry, gold around, buried, or anybody finding anything like that?
To gdzieś były domyślania takie, jak ktoś że zakopał sobie tam gdzieś do ziemi, tam coś gdzieś było, to nawet mówili dosyć jawnie, bo takie domysły były, że tam gdzieś jedna rodzina miała plan na ten parterowy, skromny domek, a w końcu powstała piętrowy ten, że tam gdzieś dokopywali. Tak, to takie no konkretów nie było, bo to się nikt nie przyznał do tego.
Ask if she recognized any of the children. She was, no?
No zaraz. Nie, ty to nie, po twarzach był nierozpoznany. Nie, po twarzach nie. To tylko się słyszało nazwiska, no i w których domach. Ojzer był takim był.
Coś pani to mówi?
Wiem, że ona miała na nogi, chorowała ta Ojzerowa i przechodził takie te buty, ubierał taki Ojzer.
Had problems with legs.
Tak.
And they made shoes specially for her.
W każdym bądź razie taki przedbiedny chłopina tam tak pomagał Żydom i mówi, ten moment sobie zapamiętam. Ubrałem Ojzerce buty, dała mi kilo cukru. To zapamiętam.
Ten dom istnieje?
Istnieje jeszcze i tam jest koło 5 morgów gruntu, tak niedaleko. Zostało, no w ruinie to stoi, ale to był w dobrym stanie, bardzo jak wyjechali Żydzi.
Now it's ruined.
I think only Shifra, maybe you were privileged to email exchange with Joe Langer. And I asked the three other families, Radel, Langer, and Lipschitz, if they had had any experience with the restoration of Holocaust-era assets. Joe Langer called that repugnant, called it despicable. I had a real issue with that. I thought it was disrespectful of him to me. To even bring up the question, and his response was that instead of doing that, we should establish a scholarship for the children of Wielopole. And you know, for most of the time I didn't relate to that thing. I thought that was quite actually kind of a Christian response of turning the other cheek. Why do I have to fund the children of Wielopole? So I said to him, first let's see if there are assets left, and after we've distributed the assets, maybe if there's something left over, we'll establish a scholarship for the children of Wielopole. But first, justice, and then we'll see. That was my view.
But do you understand why he said that? You said that you, for most of the time, you thought that was repugnant. You didn't understand what he said. But you said no. Just now you said, but now you said most of the time this is how I viewed it. But do you have a different opinion after hearing about how people in Poland suffered so much and how it was?
This is not. I know. You know, I'm a historian. I know the Poles suffered. I know the Jews. No one has to. Zelo mechadesh li klum. You don't say anything new to me when you say the Poles suffered. Okay? I know plenty about Polish suffering. All right, but now in this instance, we're talking about the suffering of the Jews, possible restoration of
assets that belong to our family. It doesn't have anything to do with the Polish nation suffering. I don't think someone should profit from.
It's no different than the lost work, the stolen works of art from the Holocaust. I mean, we're reading about all the time very important works of art, and whether they're in private collections of rich people, private collections of poor people, or in a museum, it still goes back to the rightful owner. So the state of the descendants of the Christians of Wielopole, whether they became rich or poor, doesn't change who had title to that property and who has rights to that asset. It's the same as those paintings.
This discussion is 4 steps ahead, really. We don't even know if there's a deed. We don't know if she's right. We don't know anything. And actually, I'd be interested to find out, where did they really live? What was their life really like? Even if we don't do anything else with that information. So I think that's where we start. Maybe get some more information, and then it becomes a discussion of what to do.
But Schiffer, are you against even learning? Do you think we should just not even look there?
We make choices about what we want to know. So it's not that I think, it's not my interest. That's not what I'm like. So that's not what I would investigate if I were driving the investigation. But I'm in the passenger seat, so I'm not saying don't ask. I mean, it just seems like not the biggest, most important questions for me. But that's
This is interesting. This is like the plot thickens.
Plot thickens.
Hell yeah,
Hey guys,
Check it out.
Does anybody know where there's a hardware store? I'd like to get a big chain link fence and a big, get some chain and a big padlock, and just put it around the gate.
Hello. Not to go there with family. Anywhere.
I think that this is really what makes us a family. This is family. You sit around, you're annoyed at a sibling or annoyed at a parent.
We don't have to all agree.
We don't agree.
No, I'm not saying we have to
now
agree.
I
I'm
feel
just
we
saying I
bond.
learned to be a little. I mean, that was sort of my training. Family was not a place where you really talked honestly about anything. I mean, in my family, that's sort of,
You're a big girl now.
I am a big girl now.
You don't have to follow that rule anymore.
Right. It wasn't a rule that anybody told me. It was a rule I learned to protect myself.
Which is a much more important way of learning a rule than
right,
being
exactly.
told.
So it was easier to just nod and smile and then move to California.
When I was born, we lived in a 2-room apartment with 6 kids. But eventually we bought a house and we moved, and we had a big house, which was already 2 big bedrooms, a kitchen, a bathroom outside, and a cellar where it was like a Frigidaire, where it kept we were already in the considered rich people already. We had, because my uncle came, he supplied us with a radio. We had a radio, we had a gramophone, and we were able to do things more than the average person.
So Helen Glucksman, who I also know as Chana Rachel, who is the daughter of Moshe and Shendel Teitelbaum Rappaport, she said that Oyzer lived near the town square. So that's the town square, a block from the church on a small hill. And this looks, this is the church. This is a block from the church on a small hill. Yeah. This increases the likelihood that this is the place.
Yeah.
Did you see how bad it looks in the back?
What is it?
It's your family's home.
Do we know that?
It wouldn't be the first time a Jew has spent some time in a Polish jail.
We can't hear you.
Okay. You want the whole experience, right?
Right. Would you bail me out?
On family apple tree.
Oh, God. I think that's usually the family rule. 3 days. It's the 4th day is when it goes bad. That's usually the family rule.
Joshua, you weren't interested in this?
Guys turned out to be crazy. They brought along their own psychiatrist. Holy crap.
I don't think you can work that fast.
You go on a tour and you bring your own psychiatrist? What a combination. A psychiatrist and a rabbi. Two.
Oh, God. What's that?
We need a doctor. Is there
We
a
didn't bring a dermatologist? Wait, we forgot to bring a dermatologist.
I think I got poison oak. Do they have poison oak here?
No, you just got a rash.
Oh, it's pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Oh, don't touch him.
You don't have it in Poland?
Okay, you guys ready for the title for the family song? Ready? Teitelbaum.
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 Teitelbaum, bim bam, bim bam. Teitelbaum. Teitelbaum. Teitelbaum, bim bam, bim bam, bim bam. Teitelbaum, bim bam,
We were all happy people. We didn't starve. We had food to maintain us and clothes and everything. Here I am again. I'm wearing a different dress. Uncle Dave. I was very impressed to hear all about America, and I wanted him to take me to America. So he says, sure. He says, you know, because otherwise I would get married there young. I was pretty, I was in demand, I would say. And my father would have married me off early, but I was not interested. I wanted to go to America, and I wanted Uncle Dave to take me. So he says, all right, I will do it. And I knew that if he says yes, then that's it. I came here, I thought that my family is going to follow me, because I said, what do you need to say there? Uncle Dave is able to take us all, and we can have a wonderful life. And I did get mail from them till 1942. They had somebody, a Mr. Klein, that was able to take the mail through Czechoslovakia and mail it to this country. I don't know how, but that's the way I got mail from them till 1942. My brother had a radio, because we had a radio in the house. So I was told that with this radio, he was able to get influence from a German. He gave that radio to a German, and they didn't bother my family for a long time. And that's how I was able to get mail till 42. But after that, they evidently didn't help anymore. When the letters stopped coming, I didn't hear from them. That's period. The best of my knowledge, for my own family, I'm the only survivor.
Like this. There you go. And it's around the rest of the strap, around between the thumb and forefinger. There you go. All right. So we're going to daven shacharit. Those of you who have a Siddur app on your iPhones. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shelo asani goy. Baruch atah melech haolam shelo asani aved. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shelo asani isha u'she'asani kirtzono. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך העולם פוקח עיוורים. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך העולם מביש ערומים. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך העולם מתיר אסורים. ברוך אתה אדוני למלך העולם זוקף כפופים. ברוך אתה אדוני למלך העולם רוקע הארץ על המים. ברוך אתה אדוני למלך העולם אשר הכין מצעדי גבר. ברוך אתה אדוני למלך העולם שעשה לי כל צורכי. אמן. שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו ואת כל הרשעים ישמיד. תהילת אדוני ידבר כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ויד העולם. הללויה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם אספת תגנך בסוף. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת אליהם ועשו להם ציצית אלוהינו ואל אבותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל העליון גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ומביא גואל לפני בניהם למען שמו ויה מלך עוזר ומשיר ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל מכלכל חיים בחסד לעומתם משבחים ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם מלך ציון לדור ודור hallelujah.
Okay, standing here with a slight breeze and looking at the green fields here, standing at the resting place of our dear ancestors, I feel very much the neshamas, the soul of our ancestors, and it's a very moving experience indeed. I want to read words from the 69th Psalm. Save me, O God, for the waters have come in even unto my soul. I am sunk in deep mire where there is no standing. I am come into deep waters, and the flood overwhelms me. I am weary with my crying. My throat is dried. Mine eyes fail while I wait for my God. Esa einai elhaim me'ayin me'ayin yavo esrim. Esa einai elhaim me'ayin me'ayin yavo esrim.
The next page is Psalm 123, Kuf Kaf Gimel. This is the psalm from which the verse is taken that's written on the bottom of the painting. Shir HaMa'alot, Elecha nasati et einai hayosvi v'shamayim. Hinech einei avadim el yad adonehem. Ke'einei shifcha al yad gevarta. כן עינינו אל אדוני אלוהינו עד שיחננו חוננו אדוני חוננו כי רב שבענו בוז רבת צבא לנפשנו הלג השננים הבוז לגאונים. There's a prayer for all those killed in the Holocaust. יזכור אלוהים את כל הנשמות של כל קהילות בית ישראל בגולת אירופה שהועלו על המוקד בשנות השואה תש"ע. 6 מיליון אנשים ונשים, ילדים וילדות, בחורים ובתולות, זקן וטף שנהרגו ונטבחו באכזריות איומה ונרצחו ברצח המונים במקומות מגוריהם, בערים, בעיירות, בכפרים, ויתרם הובלו למחנות הריכוז ונספו במיתות משונות ונוראות ונשרעו לעפר כבשני האש על מחנות ההשמדה האיומים בגרמניה ובפולין ובשאר ארצות בידי עם המרצחים הגרמני יחד עם עוזרם הרוצחים משאר העמים שהיו בעצה אחת להשמיד ולהרוג, לאבד את העם היהודי ולמחות את זכר היהדות ולכלות את כל אשר בשם ישראל יקרא אל נקמות שופט הארץ זכור נא את נחלי הדם. Everyone has a copy of the Kaddish in this. It's on the last page.
B'richu, Ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, Damiran be'alma v'imru, Amen.
Just excerpts from poetry. My words are not so good, but theirs are better. One is an excerpt from a Polish poet, and she talked about a camp, a hunger camp, and she just said, history counts its skeletons in round numbers. 1,001 remains 1,000, as though the one had never existed. An imaginary embryo, an empty cradle, an ABC never read. Air that laughs, cries, grows. Emptiness running down steps toward the garden. Nobody's place in the line. Sorry. We stand in the meadow where it became flesh, and the meadow is silent as a false witness. They sang with their mouths full of earth, a lovely song of how war strikes straight at the heart. There's a Russian Jewish writer, Vasily Grossman, who said, whenever we hear promises of a new order, wherever we see the dawn of an eternal good, and he meant that facetiously, whenever we see this dawn, the blood of children and old people is always shed. Human history is not the battle of good struggling to overcome evil. It is a battle fought by a great evil struggling to crush a small kernel of human kindness. And finally, at my father's funeral, I read a poem by Philip Larkin, but it ends, it's about death, called The Mower, and it ends with a line, we should be kind while there is still time. So.
And I just think about standing right here where we were praying. My great-grandfather and grandmother stood absolutely helpless, shamed and humiliated, weak, and I don't know what I could have done to, what I can do today to make sure that something like that doesn't happen to me, but whatever I have to do, I think our heads in the sand if we don't realize that things like this can happen, and whether we listen to what's going on with Iran now, and whenever anybody else listens to this tape, it probably will be something of past history. They may not even know what I'm referencing, or it may be one of the most cataclysmic events ever. But as Jews, we've always faced threats, and we're going to always face threats. And this just more firmly riles my blood and pumps up my muscles to be strong and tough and teach this to my kids.
I think I'd be remiss if I left this place without giving thanks to several people. One is Shifra Teitelbaum, without whom I'll never get here. She tried to reach me for years. I never returned her calls because I was totally alienated from the paternal side of the family. I also would like to thank my son Stephen, who is usually more correct than I am on these situations, and who pushed me on. You got to go and know that side of your family. And also, in absentia, my wife, who, although she's by marriage a Teitelbaum, was raised with great family feeling, to which I was blessed, because when I entered the family, I had a very small family, and they took me in as a member. And now I'm happy that I'm part of the whole family, and those people who came here, the rabbi, Joshua, everybody who put this all together so that I could, in my last years, could really enjoy this great experience, which she'll never forget.
I can't help but take away the continuity that has brought this family together in a way that we were not as connected to each other, and that there is sort of a living on that is that, you know, our ancestors sort of live on in us individually, but now in the community that we've created as a result of their death, in a way. And so that feels like it speaks to, you know, kind of the Jewish experience and Jewish, you know, perpetuity, and that I appreciate. So I'm grateful to be doing this trip with all of you, with Teitelbaums I didn't know either until recently. And that feels like, there's some kind of kibbutz galiot in that. There's some kind of ingathering of disparate Jews who all happen to have a Teitelbaum thread that we didn't sew together until recently.
At least from my viewpoint, we sang Esa Einai incorrectly. We sang it slowly. We sang it more like a dirge. I think it is, at least in the Hasidic tradition, it has a different meaning. So maybe we should sing it correctly, as a more upbeat and hopeful. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's do it.
All right, go. Let's go. So Ozer and Leah, we're back, all right? Your descendants are here. We're back. And the Jewish people are still here. Am Yisrael Chai. The Jewish people will endure forever. Netzach Yisrael lo yishaker. The Nazis and their helpers could not put an end to your people or to your family. And I think you would probably like to know that now that there's a state of Israel, the Hebrew language has been reborn. The language of our prayers is now a modern language. The Jewish people have a state. We have universities, we have a parliament, we have institutions, we have Nobel Prize winners. We have a country. Today we have an army, we have the best planes, we have the best tanks, we have Jewish soldiers, we are armed, we defend ourselves. The planes of the Israel Air Force have flown over Auschwitz. Am Yisrael Chai. Israeli planes have flown over Auschwitz. And I wish you all could see this. I think this is it. It's traditional that Jews are buried with a bit of the land of Israel with them. So I brought from the land around my apartment in the state of Israel, in Eretz Yisrael, in Medinat Yisrael, the state of Israel, the land of Israel, some dirt from our land, and I'm going to put it over here. And it's also traditional, if people would like to, I brought a stone as well from near where I live in Ra'anana, and I'm going to place it as a sign that I visited right here by the plaque where their names are. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Shkoyach, shkoyach, shkoyach.